Last month, I signed divorce papers after 7 years of marriage to the love of my life. Not because we fell out of love, not because of infidelity or financial problems, but because my mother-in-law literally destroyed our relationship from the inside out. What started as typical mother-in-law drama escalated into something so twisted and manipulative that it cost me my marriage, my home, and nearly my sanity. By the time I figured out what was really happening, it was too late to save anything. If you think you know how bad mother-in-law stories can get, trust me, you haven't heard anything like this. And if you're dealing with in-law problems right now, you need to hear this story before it's too late. Hit that subscribe button because what I'm about to tell you will change how you think about family manipulation forever. My name is Ashley Coleman, and I'm 29 years old from Nashville, Tennessee. 3 years ago, I thought I had the perfect life. I was married to my college sweetheart, Michael. We'd just bought our first house in Franklin, and we were trying to start a family. Michael worked as a software engineer. I was a nurse at Vanderbilt Medical Center, and everything seemed to be falling into place exactly like we'd planned. The only dark cloud in our perfect life was Michael's mother, Patricia. Now, I want to be clear from the start. I tried so hard to have a good relationship with Patricia. When Michael and I first started dating in college, she seemed like the typical overprotective mom, a little possessive of her son, maybe a bit cold toward me, but nothing I couldn't handle. I figured once she got to know me better, we'd develop a normal mother-daughter-in-law relationship. I was so naive. Patricia is 58 years old, divorced since Michael was 12, and she'd basically made her son her entire world. Michael was her only child, and after his father left, she poured all her energy into being the perfect single mom. On the surface, this looked admirable. She worked 2 jobs to put him through private school, attended every baseball game and school event, and they had this incredibly close relationship that I actually found sweet at first. But what I didn't realize was that Patricia had never learned to let go. The red flags started small. When Michael and I got engaged, Patricia insisted on being involved in every single wedding decision. She had opinions about my dress, the venue, the guest list, even the flowers. When I suggested we keep some decisions between Michael and me, she'd get this hurt look and say things like, "I just want what's best for my son," or, "I've been planning his wedding since he was born." Michael always took her side.
She's just excited. She's been dreaming about this day for years. Let her have this.
So I did. I let her take over our wedding planning because I wanted to keep the peace. I figured once we were married and had our own life, things would calm down. They didn't. After the wedding, Patricia started showing up at our apartment unannounced. She'd let herself in with the spare key Michael had given her for emergencies, and I'd come home from work to find her doing our laundry, reorganizing our kitchen, or sitting on our couch waiting for Michael to get home. When I mentioned this, made me uncomfortable. Michael said I was being unreasonable.
She's just trying to help. She's lonely. We're all the family she has.
But it got worse. Patricia started commenting on everything. How I cooked, how I cleaned, how I decorated our home. She'd make little suggestions that were actually criticisms, disguised as helpful advice. "You know, sweetie, Michael loves his steaks medium rare, not well done like this." Or, "This living room would look so much better. With different curtains, I saw some beautiful ones at Pottery Barn." I started feeling like a guest in my own home. The breaking point came when we bought our house in Franklin. It was supposed to be our fresh start, our own space, where we could finally establish boundaries. Michael and I had saved for 3 years to afford the down payment on this beautiful 3-bedroom house with a big backyard, where we planned to raise our future children. Patricia hated it. "It's so far from my house," she complained. "How am I supposed to visit regularly? And why do you need 3 bedrooms? Are you planning to have children right away? Don't you think you should wait a few more years to establish your careers?" For the first time, Michael actually stood up to his mother.
Mom, this is our decision. We love the house, and we're excited to start this new chapter of our lives.
I thought maybe things were finally changing. I thought Michael was finally seeing how controlling his mother had become. I was wrong. 2 weeks after we moved in, Patricia announced she was putting her house on the market and moving to Franklin to be closer to family. I panicked. I told Michael this felt like she was following us, that we needed our own space as a married couple. But Patricia had her story ready. "I'm getting older," she said, "and this big house is too much for me to maintain. Franklin is such a lovely area, and property values are going up. It just makes financial sense. She found a house 6 blocks away from us. 6 blocks. Michael thought this was wonderful. Now we can see her more often, and she'll be close by when we have kids. That's when I realized Patricia's long-term strategy. She wasn't just trying to control our marriage. She was positioning herself to control our entire future family. The manipulation really ramped up after she moved to Franklin. She started creating situations where Michael had to choose between her and me, and somehow I was always the unreasonable one. She'd plan family dinners on nights when Michael and I had date nights planned. When I'd suggest we keep our plans, she'd act hurt and say things like, "I hardly ever see my son anymore since he got married." She'd call Michael at work with emergencies that required him to come over immediately. A leaky faucet that needed fixing, a computer problem that needed troubleshooting, mysterious noises in the yard that made her feel unsafe. Every single emergency happened when Michael and I were supposed to spend time together, and Michael fell for it every time.
She's all alone. What if something really was wrong and I didn't come? I'd never forgive myself.
But here's where the story gets really twisted. And this is the part that nobody saw coming, including me. Last year, we decided to start trying for a baby. We'd been married for 6 years. We were financially stable, and we both wanted children. I went off birth control in January, and we were both excited about the possibility of expanding our family. Patricia, however, was not excited. She started making comments about how expensive children are, how they'd change our lifestyle, how we were still so young, and should enjoy our freedom while we could. When I'd talk about baby names or nursery ideas, she'd change the subject or find reasons to leave the room. By summer, I still wasn't pregnant, and I was starting to worry. My doctor suggested we both get fertility testing done, just to make sure everything was functioning normally. Michael's tests came back fine, and my initial tests looked good too. But my doctor wanted to run some additional blood work. That's when we discovered something that changed everything. The blood test showed I had been ingesting small amounts of hormonal birth control. Even though I'd stopped taking the pill 8 months earlier, my doctor was confused.
Are you sure you haven't taken any birth control recently? The levels in your blood suggest regular recent consumption.
I was completely baffled. I hadn't taken a birth control pill since January. I was actively trying to get pregnant. Why would I sabotage my own efforts? That's when my doctor asked about other medications, supplements, or even herbal teas I might be consuming regularly. And that's when it hit me. Every Sunday, Patricia invited us over for family dinner. Every Sunday, she made this special herbal tea that she claimed was a family recipe from her grandmother. She always insisted I drink at least 2 cups, because it was good for women's health and would help prepare my body for pregnancy. I had been drinking Patricia's special tea every week for 8 months, trusting that my mother-in-law wanted what was best for me and my marriage. I felt sick to my stomach, but I had to know for sure. The next Sunday, instead of drinking the tea, I poured it into a small container when Patricia wasn't looking and took it to be analyzed at the lab where I work. The results confirmed my worst fears. Patricia's family recipe herbal tea contained ground-up birth control pills. My mother-in-law had been secretly drugging me to prevent me from getting pregnant. When I confronted Michael with the lab results, his first reaction wasn't anger at his mother. It was disbelief that I would accuse her of something so horrible.
That's impossible. My mother would never do something like that. There has to be another explanation.
But when we confronted Patricia together, her reaction told us everything we needed to know. She didn't deny it. She didn't act shocked or confused. Instead, she started crying and talking about how she wasn't ready to share Michael with a baby, and how she just needed more time to adjust to the idea of being a grandmother. "I was going to stop," she sobbed. "I just wanted a few more months of having you both to myself. Children change everything, and I wasn't ready for that change." Michael was devastated. His mother had betrayed not just me, but him too. She had stolen months of our attempts to start a family, violated my body without my consent, and manipulated both of us in the most intimate way possible. But here's the part that destroyed our marriage. Even after learning what his mother had done, Michael still couldn't fully turn his back on her.
She needs help. She's obviously having some kind of mental health crisis. We can't just abandon her now.
I was furious. She didn't have a mental health crisis, Michael. She made a calculated decision to drug me every week for 8 months. This wasn't a momentary lapse in judgment. This was a sustained campaign of deception and abuse, but Michael had been conditioned his entire life to protect his mother, to make excuses for her behavior, to prioritize her needs over everyone else's. Even something this extreme couldn't break that pattern. He wanted to get Patricia into therapy and work through this as a family. He wanted to set boundaries, but maintain a relationship. He wanted to find a way to move forward. That didn't involve cutting his mother out of our lives completely. I couldn't do it. I couldn't continue to be married to someone who would choose his manipulative, abusive mother over his wife. I couldn't risk having children with someone who couldn't protect them from his mother's interference. The trust was broken beyond repair. Not just my trust in Patricia, but my trust in Michael's ability to put our marriage first. We tried counseling for 3 months, but it was hopeless. Every session ended the same way. Michael defending his mother's actions as a cry for help. While I tried to explain that intent doesn't matter when the impact is this devastating. She drugged me, Michael, I'd say. For 8 months, she put foreign substances in my body, without my knowledge or consent. That's not a cry for help, that's assault. But he couldn't see it that way. To him, his mother was sick and needed support, not consequences. The final straw came when Michael suggested that maybe we could all go to family therapy together, me, him, and Patricia. He thought if we could all communicate better, we could work through this as a family unit. That's when I realized that Michael would never truly understand what his mother had done to me. He would never be able to put our marriage before his relationship with her. He would always find ways to justify her behavior and expect me to forgive and move on. So I filed for divorce. The divorce was finalized last month. Michael got to keep the house in Franklin. I couldn't bear to live 6 blocks away from Patricia anyway. I moved back to Nashville, closer to my family and friends who actually support me. Michael and I haven't spoken since the papers were signed, but I heard through mutual friends that he's moved back in with his mother, temporarily, to help her through this difficult time. Patricia won. She got exactly what she wanted. Her son back under her control. No daughter-in-law to compete with, and no grandchildren to share his attention. The saddest part is that Michael doesn't even realize what he's lost. He thinks he's being a good son by taking care of his mother. He doesn't understand that he's actually enabling an abuser, and that his children, if he ever has any with someone else, will grow up with the same unhealthy dynamic that destroyed our marriage. I'm sharing this story because I want other women to recognize the warning signs I ignored for too long. Controlling in-laws don't get better on their own. They escalate. They find new ways to insert themselves into your marriage and your life. If your mother-in-law shows up unannounced, criticizes your choices, creates emergencies that require your spouse's immediate attention, or makes you feel like an outsider in your own relationship, those aren't quirks or personality differences. Those are manipulation tactics. And if your spouse consistently chooses their parent over your comfort, your boundaries, and your well-being, that's not loyalty to family. That's a failure to leave and cleave like marriage requires. I ignored red flags for 7 years because I kept thinking Patricia would eventually accept me, that Michael would eventually prioritize our marriage, that things would get better with time and patience. But some people don't want to get better. Some people don't want to share. Some people will do anything, including drugging their daughter-in-law to maintain control over their adult child's life. The hardest lesson I've learned is that you can't save a marriage when your spouse is still emotionally married to their parent. You can't compete with a lifetime of manipulation and conditioning. You can't love someone enough to make them choose you over an abusive family member. Michael chose his mother, and honestly, I'm glad he did. It saved me from years of future manipulation, from raising children in a toxic environment, from always wondering what Patricia might do next to maintain her control over our family. I'm 29 years old, I'm starting over, and for the first time in 7 years, I don't have to worry about what Patricia thinks about my choices. I don't have to walk on eggshells in my own life. I don't have to compete for my husband's attention and loyalty. It's terrifying and liberating at the same time. If you're dealing with a controlling mother-in-law right now, please learn from my mistakes. Set boundaries early and stick to them. Don't ignore red flags hoping they'll resolve themselves. And most importantly, pay attention to how your spouse responds. When you express concerns about their parents' behavior, your partner should be your teammate, not your opponent. Your marriage should be the priority, not the inconvenience. And your in-laws should enhance your life, not control it. I lost my marriage, but I found my self-respect. And honestly, that trade-off was worth it. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and share your own in-law experiences in the comments. How do you handle controlling family members? What boundaries have you had to set? Your stories might help someone else recognize their own situation. Don't forget to subscribe for more real stories about the complicated relationships that shape our lives. Sometimes the most toxic people come disguised as family, and sometimes leaving is the healthiest choice you can make. Thanks for listening to my side of the story, and remember, you deserve a partner who chooses you every single day.